them all what I'm made up. Strut down the hall, won't stop till I get enough.
Okay, so big news we need to jump right into, especially if you or someone you know has federal student loans that are in default.
Yeah, this is pretty significant.
Mark May 5th, 2025 on your calendars. That's the date the Department of Education is restarting collections on those defaulted loans.
And we're talking about a lot of people here, roughly 5 million borrowers potentially impacted.
Right. And here's the part that's probably getting the most attention. Wage garnishment notices. They're expected later this summer.
Which could mean up to 15% of your disposable income being seized. That's after taxes, after necessities.
It's a big chunk. So the big question for you listening is what's really going on and what you absolutely need to know.
Well, first off, it's important to remember the backstory here. This isn't like a brand new policy appearing out of nowhere.
No, it's more of a return to normal, isn't it?
Exactly. Collections were paused way back in March 2020. That was the Trump administration responding to the pandemic hitting and, the economy taking a nosedive.
And then the Biden administration kept extending that pause.
Right. Multiple extensions.
Yeah.
That finally ended in October 2023. So what we're seeing now is basically the system going back to how it worked before COVID-19.
Betsy Mayotte over at TISLA, that's the Institute of Student Loan Advisors, she put it really well. She said it's like the switch being flipped back on for the existing policy.
A good analogy. And the scale, as you mentioned, it's huge. 5.3 million borrowers were already in default before the pandemic even started.
But it's not just those borrowers, is it? There's a concerning pipeline, sort of?
That's where it gets, worrying. The latest figures show 2.9 million borrowers are currently 61 to 90 days late on payments.
Okay, that's delinquency.
Yes. And then there's another 4 million who are in late-stage delinquency. That means they're really close to default, reported to credit bureaus.
Wow.
Scott Buchanan from the Student Loan Servicing Alliance made a really key point. He said, even if you're not delinquent today, things can change. 5 months from now could be different. Action now is critical.
Absolutely. So whether you have these loans yourself or maybe your kid does or a friend, our mission here in this deep dive is to just cut through the confusion.
Yeah, give you the essential facts, help you figure out if you're affected and what your options actually are.
Because let's face it, this can feel, as Mike Pierce from the Student Borrower Protection Center said, scary and confused and overwhelmed.
Totally understandable, especially now with, the economy, rising costs, tariffs, making things more expensive. It's a tough time to face this.
So let's try and break it down. First things first. How do you even know for sure if you are one of the people in default facing these collections?
Okay, good starting point. The Department of Education says it plans to contact borrowers in default. They'll use email, maybe social media, before that May 5th date. Sort of a heads up.
So keep an eye out for official communications.
Definitely. But don't rely just on that. Things get missed, emails go to spam.
Right. What's the foolproof way?
The most direct way is to go to the source, studentaid.gov. Log into your account there. Your dashboard is key. It shows you everything, how much you owe, who your loan servicer is, your payment amount, and crucially, it will have a clear warning if you're in default.
And while you're logged in.
Good point. Make sure your contact info, email, mailing address is totally up to date right there on the site. That's vital.
Got it. What if you're getting bills from someone like Mohila or Advantage? Does that mean you're okay?
Generally, yes. If you're receiving regular bills from your loan servicer, that usually means you are not currently in default. So you likely won't face these immediate forced collections starting in May.
But, and this feels like a big but.
It is. If you are behind on payments, even if not technically in default yet, and you start getting notices or calls from that servicer, don't ignore them, please.
Why is that so important?
Because, as Scott Buchanan stressed, ignoring it just limits your options down the road. Engaging with the servicer, even if it's difficult, often opens up possibilities, solutions to help you avoid actually getting to default.
Okay, so engagement is key, even if you're just delinquent. Don't wait for the default hammer to fall.
Exactly. Procrastination's really not your friend here.
So let's clarify default itself. What does that actually mean for a federal student loan?
It's pretty specific. Default happens when you fail to make a scheduled payment for at least 270 days. 9 months, basically.
And unlike, say, credit card debt, these don't just disappear over time.
No, absolutely not. That's a huge misconception. Betsy Mayotte pointed this out. There is no statute of limitations on federal student loans. they don't expire.
So hoping it'll just go away is not a strategy.
Definitely not. And another thing to be clear on is forgiveness. We hear a lot about loan forgiveness proposals.
Right, lots of talk.
But the official stance from the previous administration and echoed in current communications is that there won't be mass automatic loan forgiveness. So you can't rely on that possibility to fix a default situation right now.
Okay, so you've gone to studentaid.gov, you logged in, and, the dashboard says default. What now? What are the actual steps you can take?
Right, the crucial quotient. There are basically three main ways to get out of default.
Okay, 3 paths.
Path number 1, repay the entire loan balance in full.
Sounds simple, but probably not realistic for most people in default.
Exactly. As Betsy Mayotte said pretty bluntly, if people could pay the loan in full, they probably wouldn't be in default to begin with. It's technically an option, but yeah, rarely feasible.
Okay, so what are the more practical options?
At least 2 main strategies: loan consolidation and loan rehabilitation.
Let's break those down. Consolidation first.
Sure. Loan consolidation means you take out a new direct consolidation loan to pay off your existing defaulted federal loans.
Sort of like refinancing mortgage.
Kind of, yeah. You bundle the old defaulted debt into a new loan, potentially with new payment terms, maybe a new servicer. It's usually faster than rehabilitation.
Okay. Any downsides?
Well, the record of the past default doesn't vanish from your credit report immediately just because you consolidated. But the big upside is that consolidating gets you out of default status quickly and makes you eligible for income-driven repayment plans again.
Which could mean lower monthly payments.
Potentially, yes. Much more manageable for many people.
All right, so that's consolidation. What about the other one? Rehabilitation. How does that work?
Loan rehabilitation is a bit different. It involves making a series of consecutive on-time monthly payments. Typically, it's 9 payments made within a 10-month window.
9 payments. And how much are those payments?
They're generally calculated based on your income and reasonable living expenses. So they're meant to be affordable based on your current financial situation.
And the big advantage here is?
The major benefit of completing rehabilitation successfully is that the actual default notation gets removed from your credit report.
Oh, wow. That's significant for long-term financial health.
It really is. Consolidation gets you out of default faster. Rehabilitation cleans up the credit record better, but takes longer. Trade-offs.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, there's another wrinkle in all this, isn't there? Something about the SAVE plan.
Ah, yes, the SAVE plan. This adds a layer of, well, uncertainty right now.
SVE is one of those income-driven repayment plans, right? Designed to make payments more affordable.
Exactly. It bases your monthly payment on your income and family size, often resulting in lower payments, sometimes even zero. But its legality is currently being challenged in court.
So its future is up in the air.
Pretty much. And Mike Pierce from the Student Borrower Protection Center, he raised a really important concern about this timing.
What's the concern?
That with collections restarting and the main affordable repayment option, SAVE, potentially being unavailable or paused due to legal fights, borrowers could be left with very few, if any, affordable ways to manage their payments.
Which could push more people towards
wage garnishment, or even having things like Social Security benefits seized if they can't make payments on other available plans. It's a tough spot.
It really sounds like it. So given all this complexity, the potential court issues, where can people actually turn for reliable help? It sounds like maybe even the official channels might be overloaded.
That's a very real possibility. Betsy Mayotte did point out that the Department of Education has had staff reductions.
Which it affects the people who are supposed to help.
Right. The loan servicers, the support staff, they're likely going to face really high call volumes and processing times as millions navigate this. So, unfortunately, getting help might require some patience.
Okay, so patience is needed. What other resources are out there? Where else can you look?
Mayotte suggests checking out reputable nonprofit consumer advocacy groups that focus specifically on student loans. They often have great resources.
Good idea. Any others?
Also, see if your state has a student loan ombudsman's office. Not every state does, but if yours does, they can sometimes help mediate issues with servicers.
Worth checking out.
And Scott Buchanan really emphasized using the tools on the federal student aid website, studentaid.gov. There's a loan simulator there.
What does that do?
It lets you estimate what your monthly payments and total interest might look like under different repayment plans. It's a great starting point for understanding options.
But it's just an estimate.
Right. He advises using that simulator, then following up directly with your actual loan servicer, probably through their online portal, to get the precise, personalized calculations for your specific loans.
Makes sense. Get the official numbers from your servicer.
Exactly. And one more really crucial thing Scott Buchanan mentioned: flexibility.
How so?
The federal student loan system actually has quite a bit of flexibility built in. If you lose your job, face a serious medical issue, some kind of major financial hardship.
There are options.
Yes, things like economic hardship deferments or forbearances exist. They can temporarily pause your payments while you get back on your feet.
That's important to know. It's not always just about the payment plan.
Right. And even if your situation changes later, maybe your income goes up or down, you can usually switch repayment plans. Buchanan called it probably one of the most flexible programs that exists when you borrow money.
So don't assume you're locked into one path forever.
Definitely not. Understanding and using that flexibility is vital.
Okay, let's try and wrap this up with the key takeaways for you listening. Big one. Collections on defaulted federal student loans restart May 5th, 2025.
Step 1. Log in to studentaid.gov now. Check your status.
Yeah.
Know where you stand.
If you are in default, don't panic but act. Look into loan consolidation and loan rehabilitation. Understand the differences, the pros, the cons.
And please do not ignore emails, letters, or calls from the Department of Education or your loan servicer. Engage with them.
Taking these proactive steps really is the most powerful thing you can do. Understand your situation, know the resources, make a plan.
It puts you back in control, even when things feel overwhelming.
Absolutely. And maybe just a final thought to leave you with as we wrap up this deep dive. As the government turns these collections back on after such a long pause, 4 years, what does this really signal about the bigger picture? About the long-term struggles people face with student debt, and maybe even the basic affordability of higher education itself?
That's a heavy question. It definitely points to some ongoing systemic challenges, doesn't it? Something beyond just this restart of collections. Lots to think about there.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.